More than 500 times the engagement. That's the engagement brands can get from integrating in video gaming compared to the engagement that they get on social media. It is the most profound opportunity that brands have had in decades. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is how brands can become playable. My name is Bastian Bergman. I'm the co-founder of Solston, a technology company that helps brands and companies understand their audiences deeply and better than ever before using psychology and AI. And I'm the author of a book called Press Play, Why Literally Every Company Needs a Gaming Strategy. So we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's jump in. When Burberry brought its latest clothing collection, the summer 2022, into a video game called Blankos, it took them 22 seconds to sell out the entire collection. In 22 seconds, not only did they make over $200,000 in revenue, they literally unlocked a previously unreachable audience for them, which is the modern day consumer, specifically younger audiences who don't go downtown, who don't go into a store to look for the next trench coat. They live online, they live in the digital sphere, and their journey starts digitally. And if you think that number in doing $225,000 in revenue in 22 seconds is crazy, consider this. There's people, and individual consumers that have spent $1 million, real money, on a limited edition weapon in a game called Counter-Strike. So the point is this: in video gaming, the money is real, the engagement is real, the attention and the time that people spend in that medium is real. It's where brands meet the consumers in today's economy. And Tommy Hilfiger, I mean, by all measures, he is an absolute industry icon. He said it really well when he said that any industry can leverage video games as a dynamic platform for storytelling, product placement, and consumer engagement in ways that traditional media simply can't match. And I would build on that. I agree with him, but I would take it one step further and actually propose that gaming is your new business model. So let's look at some of the data that's driving this and why I think this proposition is highly attractive. So first, we're dealing with completely changed consumer expectations. Consumers want personalization. They want immersive experiences. They want real-time interaction with the brands that they're engaging with. They want real-time feedback. Games as a touch point offer all of those better than anything else. So let's look at some of the evidence. What's happening? TV consumption, traditional media, that's the teal line behind me, down. The purple line, digital media consumption, up. The key driver behind that, video games, which you can see the huge spike in terms of hours spent on a weekly basis, which is also numbers that have been sustained even post-COVID. Let's look at some more evidence. People are cutting the cord. That's what the saying is. They're getting rid of their cable TV subscriptions. Subscriptions are down. Adults who consume news and entertainment via cable TV pretty much exclusively, down more than 40% over the last 4 to 5 years. Meanwhile, 84% of all internet users play video games. So, is TV the problem? Not entirely, because when you look at specifically Gen Z, if you add up all those numbers, they spend 3 times more the time in video gaming environments such as Roblox and Fortnite than on all social media channels combined. So it's not just TV, social media too. And you know, all of this seems very obvious, and you might ask, well, why aren't more companies moving into this space that are traditionally not from gaming? This is the reason. If you take one thing away from today's presentation, I would like you to leave this room understanding and knowing that this image of who plays video games is outdated. It's not the 18-year-old dude in a basement with neon lit lights holding a Red Bull can playing shooter games. Yes, those people exist. Yes, those people are part of the gaming culture and they absolutely need to be there. But what is also true, and this is why we have to shed the stereotype, almost 3.5 billion people play video games almost daily. So this is more than the population of India and China combined. This is bigger than any religion the world has ever seen. In fact, when I walked into this conference room, and there's a ton of people of you here, which thank you all for coming out, because I know it's been a long day, the first person that I sat down with and talked to, we started connecting, and she asked me what I'm here to do, and I said, I'm giving a talk on gaming, and she looks at me and she goes, oh my God, I'm a Valorant player, and I'm actually a League of Legends player too. Fun fact, League of Legends was one of the first games who brought Louis Vuitton as a brand into gaming. So this is everywhere. Gamers, quote unquote, are everyday consumers. And there's real money in it. 57% of all gamers have spent money on or inside a video game. 65% of Gen Z have spent money on a virtual item that literally only even exists inside of a video game. And consider this is one of the craziest stats in my opinion. 86% of consumers who have purchased a virtual item inside of a video game have proceeded to purchase the corresponding physical item. So, well, what about social media? It's all this time, it's all this money, all these algorithms, etc. This is what's going on, and why games are a superior form of entertainment or a form of consumer medium compared to social media. Games are bi-directional. They don't work if you just sit there. It's action, reaction. That's what drives engagement, and that's what drives immersion. Social media is one-directional. Us on our couch in the evening when we're tired after a long day doing this on Instagram or TikTok is not immersion. That's your brain on autopilot. Social media is one-directional. We're consuming predominantly. And I think one of the funniest statistics is that there was over 3 trillion views of gaming content on TikTok. It's the most popular content on TikTok. So even if it's not in games, gaming and gaming content is what's driving engagement in other platforms. And this is how we started this presentation. Your average engagement time of a branded game, a branded experience in Roblox for players is about 11 minutes. Your average social media post gets 1.3 seconds of engagement. So if you're a brand leader or a CMO or a marketing executive and you're thinking about where you're deploying your marketing budget and where you need to be and actually meaningfully engage with consumers, consider these statistics next time you're making budgeting allocations for your channels of where you want to play. So, and that's the point. Despite all this evidence, this is the reality. Gaming sees about 5% of the global advertising market. In other words, there's $733 billion globally that are spent on everything else. And I see this as a massive opportunity because do you guys know which other medium about 20 years ago was in a very similar position, really high engagement, but wasn't seeing a lot of the advertising dollars yet? Social media. And we all know how that went. So gaming is on the cusp of a massive breakout, and that's why I think your opportunity personally as a brand is absolutely unlocked right now to meaningfully engage consumers, better than ever before. So what are some of those paradigms that are driving that? First, games are marketplaces. Last year, there was a combined revenue just of virtual goods of $15 billion in those environments. The second paradigm is gaming is also where relationships live. People go there for social connection, to be with friends, to hang out. So as a brand, it's a profound opportunity to inject yourself into those moments of social connection and become a part of those habits and of those conversations that consumers are having with each other. And 3, gaming drives real-world purchases. Back to the 80% number that we heard, it's the virtual to physical conversion rate that this medium accomplishes better than any other channel. So, where do you start? If you wanted to leave this room today, you guys are going, it's Brand Week, 2 more great days. Let's say you digest everything, and next week you're sitting down and you're going, we should maybe think about gaming. Where do you start? In my book, based on hundreds of interviews with executives from a bunch of companies like New York Times, Chipotle, NASCAR, Unilever, BMW, and more, I effectively tried to boil it down to 4 essential strategies. One, you can integrate with a video game that already exists. There's different ways of doing it. It's a much lower lift. Big advantages, you already have an audience that's there, that's live, that you could tap into. The second pathway is you can build a game from scratch. A little bit harder to do, a little bit more complex. Big advantages, you get to shape the environment, you get to shape the game and the experience 100% to what you would like it to be, which your Instagram, Facebook, or Meta newsfeed, you have to deal with what's there. You can't shape that experience at all. The third one is basically a combination of 1 and 2, but it has blockchain technology underneath. So you could leverage Web3 gaming, and that unlocks additional opportunities around selling items, ownership, marketplaces, resell activity, which gives you sustained consumer engagement because of the continuous engagement with your brand and with the items that live on the marketplace. And then 4, you can make games your actual product. Doesn't have to be a marketing channel. In fact, it shouldn't just be. You can make it an actual part of your product. So let's quickly talk about a couple of examples. The first one, Chipotle. They integrated on Roblox around Halloween. So that actually we just had Halloween a couple of weeks ago, but that was a few years ago. And they had this really cool maze game. You could unlock different characters like Guakenstein and unlock special items. While playing this game, you could go to a virtual Chipotle restaurant on Roblox. The point was Roblox gave away $1 million in free burritos, in free meals. They had one of the top 10 best digital sales days in the history of the company on that day. And they had one of the best enrollment days into the rewards member program from that specific game on Roblox. So 2 massive outcomes for them. When we talk about building new games, there's almost no better example than the New York Times. In an industry, journalism, news, publishing in general, that's by and large in decline, the New York Times is one of the only companies that's operating against that trend, that's actually growing and thriving. The key driver behind their digital revenue growth, and specifically the growth of their subscription business, is the New York Times Games subscription, which is own video games that they're building, mobile games, crosswords, Wordle, there's Spelling Bee, there's Stripe is another one. They have a portfolio now of close to 10 games that they're operating, and they're consistently growing that. The third one, Puma. Again, they integrated on Roblox, but they had a marketplace attached to it. This was around launching a new football shoe, a new soccer shoe, in collaboration with Neymar. One of the statistics is, I'm from Germany originally, and I know Istanbul is a huge football city, so my favorite team is Borussia Dortmund, for some of you guys might know, that's where I'm from. In an average season, Borussia Dortmund will sell about 500,000 jerseys of their new jersey for the season. In one day, in that Roblox game from Puma, players claimed 1.8 million of the new jersey. So it's statistics that they could never achieve in real life in a normal season. And then last but not least, Peloton, the fitness company, you know, the bikes, the treadmills, the rower, they built a video game that actually became workout content. So rather than having an instructor yell at you while you're riding your bike and you're suffering through your workout, you have a video game that's simulating how you're riding your bike and how you're actually, you're competing in a game, so to speak. What's profound about this is more than half of all Peloton workouts on the Peloton bike are done in a video game now, as opposed to what's called instructor-led or trainer-led workouts. More than half. And not only that, those people come back for more workouts on a weekly basis, and those workouts tend to be longer on average compared to everyone else that doesn't use the game as much as others. So really, really powerful examples. And I think, you don't have to stick to one of these. You could gradually work your way up through those different entry points and ultimately end up with something that Adidas accomplished where they're active in all 4 of those quadrants. Sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less, but they've done it all and they're doing it all. And what that's led to is Adidas has been the first Fortune 1000 company, the first big blue chip company globally that has successfully built from scratch an entire business unit that is solely focused on virtual goods, that is highly profitable, and that has its own P&L and own budget that they're operating against with its own revenue targets. So the world's your oyster with this, and the potential is near limitless. Now, games are hard. Making games are hard. Turkey, and specifically Istanbul, is an incredible city when you look at mobile gaming. There's a ton of studios here. There's been a ton of success here. There's incredible talent here. Ask any one of those who has made a game in their life before, and they'll tell you games are hard. Making games is very, very hard. So I'm not saying that anything is easy. And you should just expect it to be an iterative journey. Learn from it, learn from the failures, try it again, do a little bit better. Because even if a company, like this is Disney's journey with gaming, where they've gone through the different stages of they didn't do any gaming. If you look at the scale on this chart here, they didn't do any gaming. Then they transitioned to, we're maybe just licensing our Disney IP, you know, Frozen, other characters, maybe The Simpsons, you name it, to we have an internal gaming studio. If you look at these up and downs, this looks like a very bipolar relationship if you were a therapist, but this has been Disney's journey. And they've always kept coming back to it because of the power of gaming. They can't do it without. And I think what's really cool, because this is timely, this has been literally in the last 7 days. So a year ago, or 20 months ago, Disney invested $1.5 billion in Epic Games to bring Disney, the Disney theme parks, into Fortnite, which some of you might have heard of. Last week, Disneyland Game Rush launched. It's the first theme park that's live in Fortnite, and they also brought The Simpsons over into Fortnite. So I would encourage you to check it out, because Disney right now is literally showing us what the future of multi-touchpoint or transmedia entertainment, so to speak, could look like. So I always get the question from different people that come up to me and say, well, is this really for every company? I get it for brands, it makes sense for Disney, I get it for Burberry. Why is this for every company? And there's two different lenses to this. The first one is, if you are a company that interacts with human beings, which most companies do, either your customers or your employees. So it's externally or internally. Games are powerful. Why? Because games are a digital form of play. There's nothing more that's fundamentally human than to play. Some of you have kids, if you've ever observed a toddler, a baby learn about the world, it's through play. If for adults, there's nothing better than to rewire our brain and learn. We don't learn as effectively. Nothing compares to learning through play. To play is human. So you could leverage it for employees around engagement, training, upskilling, or obviously externally, which has been the focus today, with customers. So I would love to leave you with this slide to give you some inspiration around how you could think about what your business model for your company in your industry could be. So when you're on the far right here, IP owners, creators around fashion, consumer goods, entertainment. Gaming is your new wholesale. You could test really quickly, you could iterate really quickly before you build expensive shoes. So Adidas is at a point where they're dropping 3D renderings of new shoes into different gaming environments, like 50 of them. So they don't make them in the factory necessarily anymore. They go straight to the digital environment. They look at all of the engagement and the feedback and what consumers are doing. And then those 3D renderings get sent straight to the production facility and then straight to the retailer. So you're unbelievably streamlining your supply chain. When you think about professional services firms, for example, something that's a lot more traditional, like take a consulting company. I started my career at BCG, and this was one of the first things that I got to work on, was we made a video game to, one, train our own consultants, and then two, educate our clients on how to use different business strategies in different environments more effectively. So for us, the game literally became the conference room and the training floor for senior executives around business strategy. So applications across every single industry. Now, when you start on this journey, when you embark on this journey, this has to be your starting point. If you want this to be successful for you, the foundation has to be grounded in two very explicit things. One, you need a very clear understanding of your audience's needs and desires. What are they motivated by? What drives them in life? What do they value? And then two, you as a brand have to do some soul searching. Who are we? What's our vision? What are our brand values? And what do we stand for? And you have to make those two ends meet, because that's what creates authenticity. If you're showing up in gaming environments when people are in a state of play, when they're immersed, and they feel like they're being, pun intended, they're being played, people will reject your brand way more quickly than in any other medium. So being authentic in those spaces and leading with who are the people that we're trying to do this for first is paramount. So to give you an example, most companies still operate off of this, surface level insights. This is high level demographic data, maybe some behavioral data, but this is what most companies still will talk about and use when they talk about consumers. I know some of you might have seen this example, but these are two different people. Any quick guesses on who those two people might be? I heard it down here. So you could say, well, they're both royalty. Prince of Darkness, King of England, rest in peace, Ozzy. I think we can all agree that they're very different people. Demographically, the same, but do you think they would need a different experience if we're trying to engage them through a game or any other immersive experience? Probably yes. So I would encourage you guys to check out this really cool tool called Alaris, because that's the fastest way to get access to really meaningful audience data around psychology and motivations very, very quickly into more than 200,000 audiences globally, so that you don't have to, basically build an experience to men that are born in the United Kingdom, because it's just not enough anymore. So how do you get started? And there's a lot of different things, when you embark on this journey, other than once you've done the authenticity piece and you've done the audience work, what do you do with your organization? There's different components here. I think if I had to pick maybe just one or two that are really, really important, the first one is start small, learn and grow. It's going to be an iterative journey. Don't go, we're going to spend $50 million on this, we're going to hire 50 different people. Start with a really small team internally and let it grow. Related to that, make it a cross-functional effort. Involve the different functions that have to be a part of it, because you're inevitably going to have to do a lot of education. If you're making this great plan on gaming and you're going to your CFO and they haven't been a part of that process, and you go, I'd like $15 million for this gaming thing, he'll look at you and go, so what's the return that we're getting, because we've never done this before. It's just an uphill conversation that you can avoid by bringing them on board. And then that's related to that, my third one, don't start with the knee-jerk reaction, okay, this is a marketing initiative, it needs to go with the marketing team. That might be the right conclusion for your organization. More importantly, I would love to leave you with this: recruit the willing and the curious. You're going to get way more traction with all of these initiatives if you find people, regardless of the department, who care about this stuff, who really are into it and who want to make it work. They're going to go into the Reddit forums. They're actually going to be playing the games that some of your consumers might be playing to check them out. So recruit the willing and the curious, and you're going to get a lot more traction. So the time to press play is now. And you've seen the chart with the advertising spend. The opportunity is now. You can still be ahead of the curve. It seems like there's a lot of brands already doing this, and some are, but there's still a lot of them that are waiting. The evidence is clear, the engagement is clear, and gaming is the defining consumer medium of our time. So please connect, please reach out, learn more. All the resources are here. I'm always happy to have a conversation. And with that, thank you for your attention and have a fantastic Brand Week at Istanbul.